Let's see. Okay. I think we are on the air, and let's hope so. And hopefully you can hear me. Good evening. I'm John Phillips. This is Pittsburgh Sports Tonight, and we are broadcasting live on Monday, January 19th, 2026. Good evening if you're joining us on YouTube or Facebook or X. We are pleased that you are joining us this evening. It was quite a Monday, busy day. Looks like the NFL has a new head coach in Miami. We will talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. There's one less head coach in the National Football League, apparently, as Sean McDermott was shown the door today. For some reason, we are not broadcasting on our X page, and I'm going to have to get that figured out here in just a second, which doesn't make me necessarily a happy person, but hey, the technology is still relatively new to me, and I'm just trying to figure things out at the end of the day. So let's talk about the Steelers. Let's talk a little bit about the progress that we are seeing from the black and gold when it comes to looking for a new head coach. We are in that process, are we not? Less than a week removed, about a week removed now from the fact that the Steelers watched Mike Tomlin step away as their head coach. And hey, look, it's taken a lot of heat this weekend. I wrote an article Sunday on our Facebook page. You can find us on Facebook at Steel City Sunday. I write commentary there and opinion, and we'll maybe move to some non-Steelers related material at some point. But I want to just, I want to reiterate Mike Tomlin leaving is a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a shame it took this long. It was really just, it was, for what it's worth, we needed him to go. He needed to go, and it's clear that Art Rooney II had no interest, zero interest, okay, in getting rid of Mike Tomlin, which is stunning, given how poorly this franchise has performed in the postseason. Okay, I said last week, no coach in the history of the National Football League that won a Super Bowl went more than 6 seasons and kept their job without winning a playoff game. No coach went more than 6 seasons without winning a playoff game and kept their job. Tom Landry went 6 years, and then he was fired by Jerry Jones. Okay, Mike Tomlin went 9 years without winning a playoff game and looked bad in the last half dozen, and would have kept his job had he decided last Tuesday that he wanted to keep on coaching the Steelers. Those are facts. And we could talk about why. I've talked about why. I've talked about the fact that Art Rooney didn't want to, nor would he have ever fired Mike Tomlin, because that would have required him to fire a minority head coach, and the legacy of his dad and the name Rooney, right? Getting the Rooney rule in place, a great rule, has helped a lot of minorities get to that head coaching position, GM position in the NFL. But nonetheless, it would have made him look bad, would have made his father look bad, would have made that Rooney name tarnished probably in his mind, especially with no losing seasons. But the fact of the matter is that had Mike not stepped away, he'd be getting ready for the offseason, right? Exit interviews, starting to get that process going for the NFL draft. It's a good thing that the Steelers are in the midst of a coaching search right now. It's exciting. It's something that we need. We need a new face in here. And as I've said, right, Brian Flores has been at the top of my list since moment one. excited that, he's coming in for a more formal interview, I believe, this week. We could talk a little bit more about some of the other coaches as we kind of move along here. But the truth of the matter is, we need to be in a coaching search right now. This franchise needs a new perspective, and we're going to get that eventually. The Steelers are going to take their time, as they should, right? The Dolphins, it took them a week. I don't even know if it was a week. It might have been 8 days. I don't even know if it was that. It's a couple weeks, right? Maybe less than 2 weeks. They have a new head coach already. I don't know if the Steelers will have a head coach by the end of this week. And honestly, I want them to take this process as long as they need, right? We'll talk about the ramifications of Sean McDermott today losing his job in Buffalo, right? And everybody's talking about, which is the marquee? Which is the best job? They're all good jobs. Some are elite jobs. No matter what you say about where the Steelers are at in terms of their roster and who they have for a coach to come in and work with, yeah, Buffalo, Baltimore, at the top of the list. But don't tell me that this job ranks below Cleveland. Don't tell me this job doesn't rank below Arizona. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me this job ranks below Las Vegas. It doesn't. It's above those, 100%. And again, I know Buffalo's got a great quarterback. Baltimore's got a great quarterback. But the truth of the matter is that this franchise provides stability for a head coach who may get it wrong. And make no mistake about it, I think we're heading towards a couple of 6-11, 5-12 seasons. I'm okay with that. I was okay with Aaron Rodgers coming back. I don't know if I feel that way right now. I don't know if I want him back at 42, soon to be at 43 next December. Maybe we need that to have a 5-12 season. I don't know. Maybe a head coach can get in here in the next 2 to 3 weeks and make chicken salad out of the chicken scratch that's been left over. I do these little 60-second shorts for YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. I did one over the weekend, and I used a little clip from the old, from the one Batman movie where the Joker, is leaving the hospital as it's blowing up, and then he hits the little detonator to make sure he finishes it off. And that was basically Mike Tomlin this week, leaving the place in ruins. Mean Green checking in via our YouTube channel this evening. Am I staying warm on this cold night? I did pay the gas bill this month. Thank you, Mean Green. We are North Allegheny School District already a 2-hour delay for tomorrow. I would anticipate that the kids are probably going to be off. So apparently it's going to be like -10. I was actually grilling out back this evening. I fired up the grill. I went to Lowe's, got some mesquite chips, soaked those. Did some chicken kebabs. It's good times. I'm settled into this new home. As you can tell, we got a new setup. I kind of turned my desk. I think the lighting is much better. I'm going to add some things to the back wall, give it a little bit more of a nice sports feel. And we're going to continue to keep doing this show. I appreciate Mean Green you checking in this evening as some of you are still trying to file in here. Welcome to Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. I'm John Phillips. We do this 2 nights a week, starting next week, 3 nights a week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, starting next week and through the week of the Super Bowl. And I believe after the Super Bowl is over, we're going to get to 4 nights a week. And just an hour a night. It will wet my whistle. I've got some exciting guests planned for next week. I've already got one lined up. We'll promote that tomorrow. I'm excited. I'm trying to do what I want to do for an hour each night. It may not always be 100% Pittsburgh sports related, but I am going to try to make this our a fun thing. I'm going to try to bring in different guests. I'm going to try to bring in personalities from social media. I've got one already lined up for next week. I'm excited to be able to bring that individual in. Should be a fun one. We'll talk maybe a little bit more about that tomorrow. Was hoping to have a special guest tomorrow night, but he said no. It's okay. I also tried to book somebody that wanted $250 for an interview, and I politely passed on that as well. Yeah, so we are in the early stages of a replacement for a head coach, and I think by the time we get to Super Bowl week, the Steelers will have an announcement to make. I think they're 2 weeks out. Has there been any names who have come to the forefront of the coaching search? No, Mean Green. We are so early in. Although I will say that Mark Cabali did tweet out about an hour ago some names that have already completed first-round virtual interviews. I want to go find that because I had it set up, and then I had to move my X page to go do a couple things, but Cabali had mentioned that the Steelers had completed about seven or eight virtual interviews already since all of this went down last week. I'm pulling that stuff up right now for us so that we can take a peek at that. Cabali had mentioned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It looks like, and Elgiro Ivero out of Carolina, Jeff Hafley, who has taken apparently the Miami Dolphins job, the defensive coordinator out of Green Bay, Clay Kubiak out of San Francisco, Jesse Minter from the Chargers, Nate Schliehaus from the Rams, Chris Shula from the Rams, Anthony Weaver from Miami, have all completed virtual interviews. We know that Mike McCarthy's coming in for an interview this week. We know Brian Flores is coming in for an interview this week. I would expect Sean McDermott is going to get a little kick of the tire as well. This process needs to play out however long the Steelers deem it to be. I don't want them rushing through anything. I don't think anybody does, which is what stuns me a little bit about the Miami position. But hey, their process, their decision. The Steelers have to take their time. They cannot go running through and just grab somebody quickly unless they feel like that's what's necessary. Maybe, again, somebody blows them away. You know, I really think this is Brian Flores' job to lose unless he gets an offer somewhere else he thinks is better. That's really what we're talking about here. What the coaches that are out there and available right now, how do they and their agents look at these other teams, right? The openings that are available right now, who's available, what their perception is regarding what they feel is the best fit for them. And again, you got a Josh Allen, you've got a Lamar Jackson out there. And if you are somebody who is confident that that player is going to continue to stay on that roster for the foreseeable future, right? You don't want to go into a team who's got a quarterback like the two I mentioned, and they're walking into the final year of their deals. Now, I don't know what their deals are. I'll have to look those up. But if let's just say they were coming in on the back end of a deal where they were a year with an option. If I'm the head coach, I want to talk to the GM. I want to talk maybe to the player. I don't know what the rules are in the NFL regarding all of that, right? But you want to have these conversations. What is the likelihood of an extension? What's the likelihood of keeping that player around, right? If I'm stepping into a job in Buffalo and I think Josh Allen's going to leave after his, he's got a year and an option. If I think he's going to leave after the year and not pick up the option, I may not want to take the Buffalo job. If I know Lamar Jackson's got 2 years and an option, I feel a little bit better. That's a weapon. That's a 2-time MVP that's going to make your team a lot better as opposed to him maybe leaving. That's why these positions have certain ranks, right? Personnel plays a big role. If you were taking the players out of it, the Steelers' job would probably be number one, just based on the stability of what ownership offers to a head coach. There's a certain amount of intrinsic value in that. If you're a head coach, you know the Rooneys are going to give you some time. Mean Green says since it's the fourth coach the Steelers have had since '69, it can't be something that's rushed. Bring on the right coach. I agree. I am in full agreement that and look, if they've got to go past the Super Bowl week and make this right, so be it. But I'm certain that by the Friday of the Super Bowl, the Steelers will probably have an announcement. I don't know if it'll be next week. It might be. It could be next week. It could be next week. But I really think that that's something that's going to play out in the course of the next 7 days. Of the next 7 to 10 days, we'll probably have a pretty good idea. But I really want to see Sean McDermott come in here. I like the idea that they're bringing Mike McCarthy in. I don't know if he's really in their age demographic, right? They have, and that's not the, old people are allowed to have jobs too. I think McCarthy's 64, and he's a Pittsburgh guy. I think he would be better suited in an advisory role or maybe in a coordinator position. I don't know if he wants that. I know he's still under contract to Dallas, so he's making easy money. But I'm sure he wants to get back in. I believe he interviewed for the Tennessee position as well. I don't think the Steelers are really long on him as head coach. Could be wrong. Could very well be wrong. You are welcome to leave comments. I appreciate you all checking us out this evening. This is Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. Shout out from the Mon Valley, from Lance 33. Stay warm down there in the valley, sir. It is definitely getting colder out there by the minute. All right, let's get into a few other topics. Did anybody watch any football this weekend? We'll come back and talk about Aaron Rodgers and a few other things here. I want to talk about the football this weekend, and specifically the officiating. I have been saying for quite some time now that the National Football League, specifically Roger Goodell, loves the fact that the officiating, as bad as it is, keeps people coming back for more. As much as the NFL, for as much money as they make, for as big a league as they are, and they should have full-time referees, they continue to deliver a less than stellar product because they don't make the referees full-time. And it's a travesty. It's a travesty. We saw some things over the course of the weekend, especially in that Broncos game, right? That Broncos-Bills game, where there was clearly holding going on a possession in overtime as Buffalo was trying to drive for a game-winning field goal, and their receiver was held not once but twice. Ball was overthrown. No flag was thrown. Clearly a holding, defensive holding, definitely a holding call at minimum, if not DPI in a possession on the spot where the foul was, which was inside, I think, the 40 or 35-yard line of Denver. Nothing happens. And then what do the Broncos do? They come back and they just start pitching the ball downfield, and eventually referees call a DPI. Maybe it should have been, maybe it shouldn't have been. Right, there was some sort of question on whether or not a pass last night was caught or it wasn't caught. Right, we've had all of these crazy scenarios in these games where every weekend something happens. Right, something happens. Whether it's the Buffalo-Denver game, whether it's yesterday with receivers not catching passes or catching passes in the Houston-New England game. It's mind-boggling to me. It truly is. And I think it's done on purpose. It's allowed to be that way because I think it creates more buzz online. Do I think the officials cost Buffalo the game versus Denver? I think they should have probably thrown a flag. At minimum, a 5-yard penalty and a first down. I believe that was a third down pass, Mean Green, that went over the head of the defender or the receiver and the defender for that matter. And it ends up costing the Buffalo Bills a possession. They turn the ball over, and then Denver's able to work the ball downfield, and then they just started chucking it up, hoping for a flag, and they got one. They got 2 of them, actually. And it was a perfect scenario for them to win that football game. And Bo Nix is out. What? Broken bone in his ankle. Happened on the second to the last play of the game. How does that even happen? That's crazy, right? They're going to be without him this week in the championship game. We'll get to the New England Patriots here in a few minutes. Boy, you talk about a team that just has it. They lead a charmed life. Do the Patriots not? Do they not lead a charmed life? I don't think it really matters, really. I don't think it really matters because I think Seattle is by far the best team in the National Football League. And as my sharp friend Dutch Wido, a.k.a. Smart Monies, said, the Seattle Seahawks are the best team in the National Football League. He actually said they would beat San Francisco 41-13. And they ended up beating them 41-6. We're getting a comment from It's a Wrap Sports saying it has nothing to do with employment status. It has everything to do with judgment calls versus rule interpretation. Monday morning quarterbacking is a bitch. You call it by the letter, fans. What I'm saying, It's a Wrap Sports, is that they should be full-time. Because once you have full-time officials, then you can drill down on the specifics with coaching, referee clinics, and all the things that you need to have your officials all on the same page. They're not on the same page. It's up to interpretation. Yeah, rule interpretation is not the letter of the law. It's what the rules say. My wife loves that I do this show from home 2 nights a week now. Thank you, honey. It's not about interpretation. It's what the rules stipulate. And if you had full-time officials, you could sit down, and I know they grade them, right? But you can't have an interpretation of a rule. It's the rule. You can't call pass interference or defensive holding for 58 minutes out of the game and then not call it when the 2-minute warning hits in the fourth quarter or overtime. If it's a penalty, it's a penalty. Okay? What's a catch? What's not a catch? It's insanity. We've gotten to the point now where we don't even know what a catch is. Some officials are going to rule certain things a catch. Some are going to rule it not a catch. If the ball wiggles and moves. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, we've gotten to this point, but I think it's by design. I think the league absolutely loves it. I think the league is completely enamored by the fact that people are out there just talking about this call, that call. The sport is rigged. It's not rigged. The injury will definitely hinder Denver on Sunday, but they do have a home game. You let them play and let the fans bitch, according to I think that's Maddie B. Again, it's pretty clear what a holding is. It's pretty clear what pass interference I think is, right? You have 5 yards from first contact as a defender. Everything after 5 yards shouldn't be interpretation. If a receiver has his back to a play and he's not looking back and he's holding an arm, that's a defensive holding at minimum. At minimum, in the postseason, in the fourth quarter, 2 minutes to go, or overtime, at minimum, that's defensive holding. It's 5 yards and a first down. At minimum. As the ball's in the air, even if the ball overshoots both players, at minimum, that's a 5-yard penalty. But we're not even seeing that. Stidham versus the Patriots pass rush may be a problem for Denver. We'll see. Right now, the Patriots, I think they're 5.5-point favorites as the line came out. It's going to be an interesting one on Sunday. Both games will be great. I think the Rams will give Seattle quite a bit to handle, but I still expect the Seahawks to move on. Right now, I'm leaning New England, but that's fairly obvious as to why. More from It's a Wrap. It's human factor. It's a vital part of the game, just like baseball. ABS is ridiculous. It's going to ruin the game. I think you're talking about the strikes, right? The box. I think that's what you're discussing. The human factor needs to be. I'm not saying replace the officials with robots. What I'm saying is that you have to have uniformity, right? An official needs to know, right? An official needs, like, he's going to go to his daytime job. When are you going to have time to talk to the league about, what he's doing if he's in between delivering mail from Yonkers to, the Bronx? I know a lot of these guys hold professional jobs, and they're vetted and they're good people, and that's all well and good, but they're making terrible, terrible mistakes on one hand, and then on other plays, you're getting other calls that are taking teams out of contention. You're not letting the players play essentially, right? That's the way I see this. Maybe I'm wrong. You're welcome to chime in, and you're welcome to leave a comment. The Mel Blount rule was no contact after 5 yards, Mean Green. The defenses in the 1970s, Jack Tatum, and there were others. Obviously, they definitely dominated the offenses, and the league made a change, and it started to open up the offensive play. You had Air Coryell, you had the AFL, which was chucking the ball, and they had some different rules. But it wasn't until the NFL put that rule in to give wide receivers more freedom downfield and limit the defense. And it's been like that ever since. Most of the rule changes have favored the offense, to be quite honest with you. And I understand why. They want scoring, and that creates excitement, and that creates a lot of eyeballs on games, on your phone, on your tablets, watching on streaming services. So yeah, but that was the Mel Blount rule, essentially, that limited defenders from contact with the wide receivers or tight ends or the running backs 5 yards past the line of scrimmage. All right, Pittsburgh Sports Tonight rolls on. We're at about the halfway point. We'll keep you till about 55 minutes after the hour this evening, and we will roll into some other topics. I want to get back to talking a little bit about Aaron Rodgers. There has been some conversation that A-Rod would maybe, depending on who the head coach is, maybe make a run back at it again. I don't think there's any other team in the league that he would probably play for at this point. And I think he had a good year here. I mean, overall, obviously, getting us to the postseason, winning the division, best quarterback play we've had since Ben retired. Right, he didn't throw for 350 yards and 5 touchdowns every single day. He was efficient. His completion percentage was very solid. He didn't make a ton of mistakes. He had a couple of bad games, not many. Overall, Aaron Rodgers played well, but I just don't know if a new head coach wants A-Rod to come in unless they've got a plan in place for the draft. And you could talk about Will Howard. I hear Will Howard's name all the time. Will Howard. Will Howard is maybe going to get a few snaps, right, in the preseason, right? He'll be at all the OTAs. He'll be at all the workouts. Will Howard is a 6th-round draft pick. He's a 6th-round draft pick. A lot will be determined once a head coach is in place and they get Aaron Rodgers figured out, whether or not they want to bring him back. Whether or not he wants to come back. I think he probably does want to come back. And as I said earlier, I was I was okay with that. Then Mike Tomlin quits, and now I'm not so sure. I think we're going to probably have to wait and see who the head coach is, if Rodgers speaks to the coach, and if they come to some sort of conclusion that, hey, we'll bring you in for one more year, but here's our plan. We want to develop Will Howard or, Mason Rudolph. God forbid Mason Rudolph, gets 16, 17 games. I don't know if he's the answer or not. I know that, Mike Tomlin drafted him, but he was not a fan of his, even though he helped Tomlin get into the playoffs in 2023. And of course, that whole debacle at the end with Kenny Pickett. He was injured, or was he injured? Hey, I'm good to go for Seattle, but I want to start. If not, I want to be the third string quarterback. That whole thing. But at that point in time, I think Kenny Pickett had seen enough and realized that, the franchise was probably going to be moving on from him, and they sure did they not? Right? We're going to bring Russell Wilson. Oh, you're going to be competing for the starting job. Russell Wilson's brought in. Hey, he's the starter. I want to trade. It was a disaster. The whole thing was a complete and total disaster, right? Bringing in Trubisky, Matt Canada as the offensive coordinator. And again, this goes back to Tomlin having carte blanche to do whatever he wanted. And Art was okay with it. I don't care unless you're a Bill Belichick, where you get me to 9 Super Bowls and you win 6 of them. Nobody in the NFL should have that much power over their franchise. I don't care who they are, right? You win a Super Bowl and you spend some time with a team, you tend to develop power and have cachet. It's dangerous. And we saw it firsthand here. Arguing with fans, Mike Tomlin wasn't responsible for those drafts. It was Kevin Colbert. First of all, Kevin Colbert was brought in, right, because Bill Cowher won a power struggle with the guy who was there previously, and he got kicked out. And Colbert was brought in, and it was Cowher who had a lot of sway with what Colbert was doing. And then, of course, he retires, steps down. He wanted more money. The Rooneys said no, so he stepped away, and he got his money, of course, from television. But here comes Tomlin in, and within a few years, right, Super Bowl championship goes to a pair. Rooneys give him carte blanche. He has autonomy to pretty much do and say whatever he wants. And so it was committee, but Tomlin had final say. And especially after Colbert retired, right? Omar Khan did the bidding in part of what Mike Tomlin wanted. Everybody reports to Tomlin, director of football operations. The buck stopped with him. That's why it makes me laugh when you've got guys like Cam Newton out there giving Tomlin a free pass, but, ripping Sean McDermott, right? The truth of the matter is that this is Tomlin's baby. Well, he got him to the playoffs with so little. Why did they have so little? Because they missed a lot in drafts that they've had. Whose fault is that? It's a combination of things, but it goes back to Tomlin. It's his roster. Those are his players. He's the one signing off on everything. You don't think that a third-round selection isn't getting an okay from Mike Tomlin? No, I want to go this way. Right? He was in charge of everything. The reason why they were mediocre is because Mike put mediocre rosters together. They couldn't figure it out. They couldn't figure out the draft picks on a consistent basis. They couldn't figure out the free agents on a consistent basis. It was always 9-7 or 10-7 or 9-8 and barely get in, win a division, always a first round exit, right? How many more dubious records did Mike Tomlin need to acquire before this came to an end? Right? 9 one and dones. A .400 winning percentage after 20 playoff games. 5 straight losses to teams with sub-500 records. with a minimum of 8 losses against the wins that they had. He lost 5 in a row like that. There's only been 2 coaches in the history of the league that have ever done that, and he was one of them. And, of course, not developing the talent. As Andy Wido checks in via YouTube, they couldn't develop talent. Andy, absolutely true. And that falls on Tomlin's shoulders. As the week rolled out, and as we got to Saturday, I was quite perplexed by the whole, Tomlin not having a final presser thing. It really bothered me, and that was the other topic I wanted to get into tonight. It bothered me not because he owed the fans or the media. Okay, Tomlin doesn't owe the media or the fans a final presser. He owed the Rooney family the courtesy of that after what they gave him for 19 years. Okay, Chuck Noll was made to retire. Bill Cowher resigned because he wanted more money, and they said no. Okay. Mike Tomlin didn't even give this franchise the courtesy of a farewell interview, right, to the media. Could have spent 20 minutes there. Could have had a 5-10-minute statement, if that, take a few questions, and been out of there in a short period of time. Didn't have to be long. I don't think Mike Tomlin respected the Rooney family very much at the end of the day when it was all said and done. He showed his fundamental lack of respect for the organization by not doing a press conference. That's my opinion. And I'll die on that hill. He owed it to the Steeler organization because even Art in his press conference on Wednesday last week said, you can ask Mike. Next day, no press conference. Stunner. Even if he would have taken a few days, because I know his daughter had a meet. She's a gymnast down at the University of Georgia. I know he went down there and spent some time with her, and rightfully so. He could have had something this week and came back. He could have gone out and done that sort of thing and then come back. He owed it to the franchise to do a press conference. If the 2 coaches prior to him, right, and we know this now over the course of time. We know that Dan Rooney went to Chuck Noll and said, hey, you're done. We know that Bill Cowher wanted more money, and Dan Rooney said no. And so Bill stepped away and went to television and found out he loved it so much that he never needed to come back. Whatever happened, whether you want to believe that it was all Mike Tomlin deciding, hey, I've had enough, or if it was the Rooneys saying, hey, and again, I think this is plausible. I think the Rooneys may have said to him, I don't know if we're going to extend you. I know Art said he wanted to run it back, but that might have been after the fact. That might have just been thrown in there as cover for Mike. I don't know. But I think it's plausible that conversation happened on Tuesday, and Mike said, you know what? I'm done. I think it's possible. I'm not saying it happened, but I think it's plausible. And the fact that Mike doesn't do a press conference it bothers me. It bothers me because I think he shows a fundamental lack of respect for an organization that plucked him out of Minnesota, right? This unknown that was handed a Super Bowl caliber roster, coordinators and staff that had been to the Super Bowl just a few years prior. He was given the keys to a kingdom. And in the first 4 years, he did a very great job. But then after that, all the kinks in the armor, the bloom comes off the rose, you peel back some of the layers of the onion, you start to find some stink. All of that eventually came over time. And the bottom line is he's gone, and now we're in a coaching search. All right, Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. John Phillips here. Thanks for joining me on all of our social media platforms. Nice little crowd of you in here this evening. We appreciate you checking us out, whether it's on our YouTube channel or on Facebook or on our X page. It's a Wrap Sports Tonight, because for some reason I am not streaming off of my page, and I've got to get that figured out. What I would like to tell you is that tonight's show is brought to you in part by Arch Masonry and Restoration. They are working at this time of year. If you're a brick mason, block mason, concrete finisher, if you do construction labor, and your team of people, your company you work for is not working, call Arch Masonry, 412-564-5733. Visit their website, archmasonryinc.com. Tell them you heard about Arch Masonry on Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. We appreciate Arch Masonry giving us the opportunity to continue to keep broadcasting throughout the course of this season, off season as it might be. We'll continue to do shows this week, tonight, and tomorrow night. Starting next Wednesday, I will do 3 nights a week. We'll head into Super Bowl off week and Super Bowl week, doing shows 3 nights a week. And then sometime after the Super Bowl, possibly the first full week of February, we might go 4 nights a week. I'm still trying to work out some of the kinks in my schedule. Got a big contract in today, folks. I was fairly busy. I'm going to be doing a lot of traveling in the next 3-4 weeks, and I don't know if I'll be home for months on end. I know I'm going to Utah in mid-April, and I'll probably be out there living in a trailer for 4 months, trying to put 500 or 600 people to work. And I'm not even kidding when I say that. It's going to get busy, but I want to be able to do an hour a night, and I can do an hour a night because I have the support of this guy right here from It's a Wrap Sports. That's Matty B. The It's a Wrap Sports Network puts us on the air. They've been putting us on the air since day one. I can't thank Matty B and the team of people that he has out in Philadelphia. The It's a Wrap Sports Network has a lot of shows that are Philly-centric. They do some Penn State stuff. They brought us on because, hey, it's Keystone State, right, against the world. Well, this is the It's a Wrap Sports lineup. You get a chance to see shows like ours every night, Sunday through Thursday at 9 o'clock, The Final Word with Matty B. They do post-game shows for the Flyers. They do the 76ers. They have a Sunday show, Philly AM Sports. They've got nice programming. You should check them out. Here's just a couple of the different programs you can see on Friday night. It's Philly Friday Frenzy with Al Zafari. That's on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. If you like to gamble, if you like to wager a chocolate chip cookie or two, Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock, it's Props, Locks, and Parlays with Mike Loro. He does a Penn State show during the football season. Great programming from It's a Wrap Sports. Give them a look-see. Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn. That's Thursdays at 7 o'clock. You can check them out. It's a Wrap Sports Network. We thank them for helping us. They've been great. Matty B's been fantastic. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to help build a platform here. Our platform, It's a Wrap Sports platform. We are in this for the long haul. I said this from the beginning. I should have obviously done this a long time ago, but I'm doing it now, and I'm having a good time doing it. And we're just going to continue to keep providing programming. It's just the way it's going to be. A couple other comments coming in here. This one from Mean Green. It doesn't seem right talking about the Super Bowl and not including our Steelers. Well, look, they've had this game now, what, 50? Which one is this? Is this 58 or this is Super Bowl 60? So we've done this 60 times, right? This is the 60th game. Well, we've been involved in 8 of them, right? We've been involved in 8 of them. So, that's not a bad, that's like what, 12% of the games, right? That's not a bad number, right? We're accustomed to going to the Super Bowl. We're accustomed to winning playoff games. That's why things have been so hard. And again, I don't want to go off on this tangent, but it gets me back to the conversation where, look, I've generated a lot of content on Facebook the last 4 or 5 days. on various Steeler pages. Our page, of course, I like to share to other Steeler pages. There are some pages out there that are great about sharing our content, the content that I provide. And, anybody clamoring about the race card, the simple truth is that every coach in every professional sport and at the big college levels, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what your skin color is, what your religion is. If you don't win games, you are on a hot seat. Fans, media, right? Even ownership. Whoa, this is concerning. We need to do better. Right? Everybody's on a hot seat, especially in the NFL if you don't win. If you don't win. And he wasn't winning playoff games. They were somewhat competitive in this one, right? At least they were competitive for 3 quarters. And then the wheels came off. Still not good enough. It's still not acceptable. And he had to step down for something to change. That's the crazy part. That's the part I still can't wrap my head around, although I've explained why I believe that's the case. All right. Let's talk about Jeff Capel. I want to switch to a few other topics here. I want to get away from the Steelers for a few minutes. Pitt basketball has fallen on hard times. And I'm not just talking about, the Dusty Rhodes promo from 1985 hard times. I'm talking like this basketball program got destroyed by Louisville at home on Saturday by 40-plus points. I don't even know if half the building was filled down at the Peterson Event Center. Alan Green, I don't know if you're paying attention to anything. You were brought in a few years ago to become the new athletic director. Never had a chance to meet you. By all accounts, you're doing what you're supposed to. But Jeff Capel right now is not getting it done. Year 7 of Jeff Capel. And to get beat by 40, I think it was 41 points Saturday. You got to buy this guy out at the end of the year. I think he's got 4 years left on his deal. You have to buy Jeff Capel out. I don't know even if that's going to matter. Even if you bring in a young coach or you try to make a splash hire, right? You try to bring somebody in here that is a big name that is at a smaller program. And I know Sean Miller would probably come up firsthand, right? Sean and Archie Miller. It can't keep being like this for Pitt basketball. It's a train wreck. It's embarrassing, right? We talked a little bit about how the football program went 8-4 and then went to a military bowl, right? And they lost to East Carolina, embarrassingly enough. I've talked about Pitt athletics over the decades. Obviously the Oval Janes era in the mid-late 80s set this university back 50 years, 40 plus years now. We're going on 40 years of just misery if you're a Pitt fan, right? And I didn't go to the University of Pittsburgh. I have no affiliation with Pitt other than growing up as a kid in the late 70s and early 80s and experiencing what was undoubtedly the greatest 8-9 year run in the university's history. Winning a national title in 76, Dan Marino coming to the program in 79, 80, 81, and 82 with Hugh Green. Bill Fralick was mixed in there, Ricky Jackson, Gordon Jones. I know I'm forgetting a whole bunch of others that they had. Tommy Flynn, right? There's Sal Sinceri, right? They had tremendous talent at Pitt for 8 or 9 years. First under, eventually after Jackie Sherrill, the program just rose to incredible heights. And then after 85, 86, things kind of sputtered off. They just kind of just went sideways, and Oval Janes and the university at that point in time had kind of taken over. Johnny Majors left. Jackie Sherrill took over. He left to go to, I think it was either Texas A&M or Mississippi State. And then they brought Foge Fazio in, and that's when things really started to kind of turn for Pitt. And then, of course, betraying Joe Paterno, not creating an Eastern football conference, going to the Big East, blocking Penn State from joining the Big East, and then, of course, Joe Paterno leaving and going to the Big Ten really sealed the university's fate. And it has been a struggle ever since for all the programs. There was a period of time where, Pitt basketball, had some cachet. Right? Steve Peterson came in that first era of the university. They tore down Pitt Stadium. They built the Peterson Events Center. They put together a winning basketball program for a number of years. They made NCAA tournaments. They had number one seeds, but they couldn't get to a Final Four. Right? They got to a regional final. I believe it was I think it was 2008. They lost to Villanova in the regional final that year. True story. I watched that game from Oil City High School in their gymnasium. There was an independent wrestling card that a friend of mine ran, and there were 1,200 people at this. And I watched that that regional final game. It still kills me to even say this. I watched Pitt lose that game with George the Animal Steele. I swear to you, Jimmy Superfly Snuka was there, Kamala, who else? Sergeant Slaughter, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I'll see if I can dig the photos out. It was my son's birthday. It was like March 27th or March 28th. That was the regional finals where Villanova went down and made that layup at the end of the game. I watched that standing next to George the Animal Steele. I watched the last 10 minutes of that game hanging out with George Steele backstage. True story. Pitt has suffered, and they have not been able to get even back to that point ever since then. That's how hard. It's 17 years, right? It'll be 18 years this spring. 18 years this spring. Pitt basketball is in a world of hurt right now. I think Alan Green needs to probably step in after the season and remove Jeff Capel. We'll see if Pitt decides they want to go and buy out his contract, because that's really what it's going to take, right? I think there's 4 years left, and I'm sure it's a sizable amount of money. The Pittsburgh Penguins go to Seattle. They start a 4-game road trip, and they defeat the Kraken 6-3 this afternoon on a Monday MLK game. Sidney Crosby with 2 assists in this contest. Ben Myers with a goal and an assist for the Penguins. Connor Dewar, he had 2 goals in this game. The Penguins 23, 14, and 11. I believe it's now game 11 since the start of the new year, and they are, I believe, 7-4. 7-4. So this is a good sign for the Penguins right now. I was always one of these guys that kind of paid attention after the season was over in terms of football, but the Penguins have piqued a little bit more interest in me after a hot start. Then they kind of cooled off. They've begun the new year with 6 wins now, and I believe that's 14 points that they've acquired since the start of the year. So good job by the Penguins in terms of that. I guess the Riverhounds made a little bit of news today. They signed Trevor Amon, who won a Golden Boot in USL Pro 1, I believe, 2 years ago. He's a prolific goal scorer. Of course, Augie Williams left the team. He was their leading goal scorer this past season. The Riverhounds have signed Trevor Amon to a 2-year contract. A little bit of Riverhounds news for you there as well. All right, Pittsburgh Sports Tonight winding down here on this Monday evening. I want to thank everybody for participating in the show today. Appreciate all of your comments. We'll be back in here again tomorrow night. Hoping to have a guest for us tomorrow evening. I'm not sure who just yet, but we're working on that. I've already got one guest lined up for next week that I'm excited to talk about. We'll get more into that tomorrow, but we are pleased to be doing this a couple nights a week now. We hope you're enjoying it. It just gives me an opportunity to stretch my pipes and talk about whatever's on my mind in Pittsburgh sports and other topics. Maybe I should call the show Pittsburgh Sports Tonight and at. I'll have to chat GPT myself a new logo. Okay. Thanks to all the people involved. Again, thanks to the It's a Wrap Sports Network for putting us on the air. My name is John Phillips. We'll be back in here tomorrow at 7 o'clock. People, please like and subscribe. If you have not been to our YouTube channel yet, please give us a follow on the YouTube channel. We continue to crank out more content over on YouTube. That seems to be doing some good things for us, and we certainly want to continue that. Until tomorrow at 7 p.m., my name is John Phillips. Thanks for tuning in. You've been watching Pittsburgh Sports Tonight here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network.